I'm often asked how I can do this work. And believe me, there's days when I ask myself that. But in reality, I can't imagine doing anything different, anything else. Over the last 7 years, I've worked with some of the most amazing women I've ever met, made even more so by the fact that they find nothing extraordinary in their resilience and perseverance. Let me share with you an experience from Sierra Leone that stands out in my mind as vividly today as when it happened in 2001. A woman I'll call Stella came to the IRC office in Kenema. This was unusual because IRC supported a women's center that was by design more centrally located and much easier to get to than our actual offices. But here was Stella, as my grandmother would say, no bigger than a minute, with her young daughter on the floor by her feet. I sat down, and with one of my colleagues interpreting, I heard her story. Stella was 21 years old when I met her. She was 13 when the war in Sierra Leone started, and 14 when she was raped the first time by rebels. I'm going to skip the more gruesome details, but after the war ended, she was branded as damaged goods because of the rape and stigmatized by her community. No one wanted to marry her, and in Sierra Leone, marriage is not an option. It's a necessity. Finally, when she was 19, a man in her village, 30 years her senior, agreed to marry her. The beatings began immediately after. After Stella gave birth to a girl child, the beatings increased. She told me that she could not remember the last day that had gone by when she had not been beaten. As her story unfolded, I realized that Stella had walked 18 miles to the IRC office after hearing of a program that cared about women. I asked her what she wanted to happen. Without hesitation, she reached down and pulled up her daughter from the floor onto her lap and said, "I want to make sure that my daughter does not suffer the way I have suffered." How do we ensure that Stella's daughter and the millions of conflict-affected women and girls don't experience what Stella has experienced? On my way from Nairobi to Ivory Coast, I was thinking about the momentum necessary to stop violence against women and girls. I asked myself, how can the people in this room build and sustain the momentum necessary to stop this war on women? And I asked myself, do enough people know about what is happening to conflict-affected women and girls? I don't think so. I have a minor in women's studies. I've been a progressive since I crawled out the cradle. I've worked with batterers. I've worked in shelters. Yet before joining the IRC, I had no idea of the depths of the war on women and girls. I did not know that acts of unimaginable cruelty were actually the routine for women and girls around the world. We need to get the message out about just how brutal, systematic, sustained, and interconnected this assault is on women and girls. Do people understand that violence against women and girls around the world is fueled by gender inequality? Yes and no. We understand it in theory, and we nod our heads in vigorous agreement when we hear that gender inequality fuels violence against women. But when we have to look at what that means for the way we raise our sons and daughters, that head nodding slows down a little bit. When we need to take a critical look at our own personal relationships and the way we interact with our partners and play out the gender roles and power differentials that perpetuate violence, that head nodding stops. It reminds me of something that my grandmother would always say. She'd say, "Heidi, it's all of a piece. You can't separate one thing from another." And we must be the change that we want to see. Can the United States be a leader in stopping the war on women? Past few days, we have lamented the dearth of leadership, integrity, and, intelligence of recent administrations. We know that this administration has been no friend to women and girls anywhere in the world. But we are looking forward to a new day in the U.S., and part of that new day can see the United States leading by example to stop violence against women around the world. And I would suggest to you that we have already started down that path. On June 19th of this year, the United States sponsored and advocated for the Security Council Resolution 1820. That resolution clearly states that sexual violence is a matter of international peace and security. That is no small thing. Okay? We can use that Security Council 1820 to then advocate for the International Violence Against Women Act. The International Violence Against Women Act, now before the U.S. Congress, provides another opportunity for the U.S. to be a leader on this issue. Domestic and international organizations have come together to help draft and lobby for this unprecedented legislation. Family Violence Prevention Fund, Amnesty International, Women Thrive, the International Rescue Committee, and a host of other organizations have come together to put violence against women on the top of U.S. foreign policy. You can add your voice and your action to those efforts. That bill would authorize more U.S. aid to promote international violence prevention campaigns. It would support health care and services for survivors. It would promote access to education and economic opportunity for girls and women. And it would call for the U.S. to have a 5-year comprehensive international strategy to reduce and prevent violence against women and girls. Is change possible? Yes. Yes, change is possible, but we must act. Changing the attitudes and beliefs that drive and condone violence against women and girls is not going to happen overnight, but it does happen. With our men as part of the solution program in Liberia, we are seeing what on the face of it might seem small steps, but to the women there, it makes all the difference in the world. For example, women in Ganta County, Liberia tell us that men are actually encouraging them to speak at meetings. They told us that there's a few men in the community that have actually started to speak out when men beat their wives. These are little mini revolutions, my friends, and they're change that can happen. So I'd like to close by sharing with you my momentum. My momentum is Stella, who walked 18 miles on the rumor of a program that cares about women. It is Maziza, who is followed by security forces every day for refusing to stop talking about a problem her government wants to hide. It is Fatima, who bravely confronts her disease and refuses to give up. It is the women around the world seeking solidarity so that their daughters never experience violence. Thank you.